Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the future of medicine, and it's a future being pulled in two very different directions by two incredibly powerful forces: the very personal, human experience of patients and the massive, almost unbelievable power of artificial intelligence. So it really all boils down to this one big question, right? Is the future of medicine going to be about more humanity or more technology? Are we talking about human insight or just a whole lot of data and algorithms? This tension is right at the heart of a huge revolution in how we develop drugs. So let's get into it. For decades, the whole process of finding new medicines has been this story of, well, incredible scientific breakthroughs on one hand, but also just frustratingly slow progress on the other. It's an expensive, super high-stakes race against biology itself. So what's the hang-up? The traditional way of doing things is really a hit-and-miss game. You're testing countless compounds, just hoping one of them is a winner. It's incredibly slow, it costs a fortune, and frankly, it just can't keep up with how badly we need faster, more precise, and more relevant treatments.
Okay, so the first major shift that's challenging this old way of doing things, it puts a totally new kind of expert right at the center of the research. And I'm not talking about a scientist in a lab coat. I'm talking about the patient, the person who actually lives with the disease day in and day out.
This idea is really being championed by groups like the European Patients Academy. You might have heard of them, EUPATI. Their whole argument is that the lived experience of a patient isn't just a collection of stories. No, it's a critical piece of evidence that can make the science itself better and way more effective.
And look, this isn't just some vague, feel-good idea. It's a real framework built on some really clear values. It's about making research relevant, so it actually helps with what patients need, not just what scientists find interesting. It's about fairness, giving patients a real seat at the table. And it's about equity and capacity building, making sure the whole system can balance what patients need with what the industry is trying to do so everyone can actually work together.
But let's be real, this is a huge change, and it's definitely not without some friction. The idea of bringing patients into formal ethics committees is, and I'm quoting the source material here, much disputed. Some critics are worried that a patient, being so personally invested might accidentally compromise the scientific neutrality you need in a review process.
All right, so let's switch gears and look at the other side of this coin. Because at the exact same time all this is happening, there's another revolution going on. And this one isn't driven by human experience at all, but by pure data and just raw computational power. And this is where artificial intelligence steps in. AI promises to do what the human brain, well, what it just can't do: process these absolutely gigantic libraries of biological data at a speed and scale that's almost impossible to imagine. It could completely transform the entire search for new medicines. So, how does this actually work? Well, first, an AI can just tear through massive data sets, finding patterns in molecules that no human could ever hope to see. Then it starts predicting outcomes. It's basically running millions of virtual experiments to see if a drug is going to work or if it might be toxic. From there, it can even discover brand new targets for disease, like some protein nobody knew was important. And in some cases, it can literally design totally new drug compounds from the ground up. And listen, this isn't just some far-off theory. This is happening right now. AI is already producing some absolutely incredible results. I mean, think about this. It has found powerful new antibiotics by searching through more than 100 million molecules. It's pinpointed potential treatments for diseases like Alzheimer's and cancer. And it was a huge help in speeding up the search for COVID-19 drugs when the world desperately needed them. So we have these two massive, powerful new forces, right? But here comes the reality check. Neither the patient nor the processor is a magic bullet. Both of these incredible transformations come with their own pretty significant challenges. And what's really wild is that the challenges are surprisingly similar. For patients, the concern is human bias, the worry that their own personal hopes might cause them to overestimate the benefit or underestimate the risks. And for AI, the problem is machine bias. If you train an algorithm on data from only one group of people, for example, its predictions can be just as skewed, leading to drugs that don't work for everyone.
But hang on, because this is where the story takes a really fascinating twist. The authors of the very paper we're talking about on AI and drug discovery, they decided to put the technology to the test on their own work. They actually used ChatGPT to help write their first draft.
So what happened? Well, when they went back and checked all the scientific references the AI provided to back up its claims, get this, only 6% of them were correct. Just 6%.
Their takeaway from this experiment was pretty blunt. They basically said, hey, on its own, ChatGPT is not a useful tool for writing reliable science. It absolutely required, and this is a direct quote, strong human intervention and expertise to be useful and, to actually be correct.
And that little experiment brings us right back to where we started. Maybe the future isn't about choosing between the patient and the processor. Maybe it's not human versus algorithm at all. Maybe it's about finding a way for them to work together.
Yeah, it seems like the most powerful way forward is a new kind of synthesis, a partnership. You let the AI do what it does best, provide that raw, predictive power to analyze data on a scale that's just not humanly possible. But you need the humans, both the scientists and the patients, to provide what is uniquely human, the context, the ethical judgment, and the real-world wisdom that no machine can ever replicate.
So this leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In this new era of medicine, the real challenge isn't about choosing between lived experience and big data. The challenge is figuring out how to perfectly combine them. Because as we search for the cures of tomorrow, the answer won't be found in the patient or the processor alone, but in the partnership between them.